Hello everyone, this is FIDE Master Victor Neustroyev, and we are here to discuss the first game of the match, World Championship match 2023 between Ian Nepomniatchi and Ding Liren. The first game is over, and probably you know it was ended in a draw. Well, I have some mixed feelings. Well, first of all, I think that Jan could play better and could play for a win. Second, to be honest, this game shows that probably Jan is better prepared for the game. Well, we'll see. Okay, please now let me know if the sound and video quality is good. Also, you can tell me which country you are from, and what is more important, who of you is going to visit this event in live. So this event takes place in Astana, Kazakhstan. Who would like to go there? Okay, so we have just a few people here. Just let me know about the sound and video quality. Okay, everything is fine. Thank you, Anirudh. Okay, good. And you know, the first game ended in a draw. So what are we going to do today? We are going to analyze two games. Played. I found the best game by Ding Liren, and I found the best game of Ian Nepomniatchi. Well, these were not standard games, but I want to demonstrate these exact games to explain the style of these two players. Okay, so we're just waiting for more people to come, and I'm just sharing my stream on some other platforms, such as in our Facebook group. Okay, perfect. So now I'm back with you. Okay, so first of all, if anybody wants to come to Kazakhstan and Astana, I will be there from the 18th to 28th of April. So I'm not going to cover the first part of the match, but definitely the second part. Well, you probably know that I had to leave Russia and to relocate to Kazakhstan, where I'm living now, and now I live in Almaty, which is located to the south. This is near the south border of Kazakhstan, which is this is actually the largest city of Kazakhstan and old capital. Now a new capital is Astana, and this is where this World Championship match takes place. I'm going to attend it at the 18th of April. Also, a few of my students gonna come as well. If you want to meet there, just meet, ask, say anything. You're welcome. You can find me. You can also message me. You can also message me on. You can message me by email by sending it to tricksofchess@gmail.com or school@chesslance.com, and we can get a meeting, or we're gonna play chess at the event or near the event. So okay, But, well, if you wanna come, just let me know. It would be nice to see you in person. Okay, now let's talk about the game. So first, I chose the best game by Ding Liren, and I would like to explain it. It's his game that he played against Magnus Carlsen. It was played in... let me check. It was played before the pandemic. It was the August of the 2019. And it was actually Sinfield Cup. There was a tie break, and Magnus Carlsen lost it. So Ding Liren was able to outplay him. Let me illustrate this game, and after I finish this game analysis, I will explain why I choose this one and how this game reveals the playing style of Ding Liren. e4, e5, it was Rui Lopez. Bishop a4, knight f6. This is just a very common and standard line, d6. So, well, you probably know I suggest my students to castle there, and if c3, c3, then d6, probably. Yeah, okay, so, yeah, for example, if someone plays rook e1 here, which is the main line, then I suggest playing b5, bishop goes to b1, and then castle. And after c3, it's d5, martial counterattack. But this time it was played anti-martial with d3, and b5 has to be played, then d6, or castle and then d6. There is no big difference. So knight a5, bishop comes to c2. This is actually a so-called Martinez variation. c5, the knight goes to the edge to let the c5 pawn to fight for the center. And d4. C takes d4, c takes d4. h3, this is a very common position, but here Ding Liren plays a novelty. So it's not a famous variation, but, well, not so famous. However, relatively popular. Rook e8 was played, well, d5, now the bishop becomes really bad on b7, and the knight can be trapped. Well, it goes to c4 this time, but the bishop is not doing anything on b7. It's better to keep it there to cover the f5 square. Knight c3, the queen should be relocated. The queen goes to b8, bishop d3, and rook c8. The queen side is open, and black is about to play on the queen side. Their main ideas are connected with c4. So you see, black is playing solid moves with trying to avoid any risk. Knight e2, knight b7. The knight just goes to a better spot. g4, Magnus plays for a win. Knight c5, knight g3. And, well, in this position, this knight looks really good. Maybe something like b4, a4, a5. I mean, a5, a4 should be done first. But Ding Liren instead chooses another solid continuation. He takes on d3. And only then he plays b4 with the idea of that. Well, it's fine. Rook e1. And here, if you want to play for a win, you should definitely do something like that. Try to weaken the c3 square. However, instead, Ding Liren decides to play safely. He want to choose more safe moves. And can you guess the move that he played after rook e1? Who knows? Oh, who can guess? So rook e1 was played, and what do you think? Well, in my opinion, bishop f5 still is attractive. But then we should control the f5 square, because knight is coming, and this is really dangerous. Yes, John, it was queen b5, because with no queens on the board, black's position contains almost no risk. So he plays solid moves. Queen d1, rook c7. So the queen went to a passive position. Magnus wants to play for a win. He wants to keep the queens on the board. But now black position is already better. They have a strong initiative through the c file. Bishop a3, rook ac8, knight d2, g6 as a prophylaxis. It weakens the kingside position, but just a little bit. b3 to secure this square and maybe set the knight then. Queen b7, knight c4, and Ding Liren plays this to attack. The knight has to leave its position. It goes to a5, after which queen b8. Queen d2. So how to play for black? Well, black should definitely take advantage of their activity. They should do something like this or that. They cannot play rook c2 at the moment because the pawn on b4 is vulnerable. So that's why rook c3. And here Magnus undermines this pawn. There is an idea that he has behind this move. And again, so, well, what is the most solid continuation? What do you think? What is the most solid continuation for black in order to not lose the pawn and not to make this rook vulnerable? So I think most of club players would continue with something like that. Bishop d7 with the idea of taking on b4 with the queen. And there is nothing bad in this move. The move is, generally speaking, okay. However, Ding Liren is definitely a top player. He is not only a defensive player, he is a top player. That's why when he sees an option, he takes a counterplay, and he took on a3. The idea was that after knight c6, there is an interference, so the knight is about to take, the rook is hanging. And but Ding calculated that line and was okay to sacrifice the exchange. Bishop c6, queen c3, bishop takes d5. Queen a5. This is what he thought he blundered, because two pieces are under attack. Originally, he wanted to play this move, but then didn't realize that after a g5 he could potentially get some real problems. So g5, and this is what happened in the game, but with the knight moves, the bishop is lost. Luckily, because his position was better before that, and because of the enemy king being exposed, in this position he was able to find the best option. What is the best move for black here? So, what do you have in mind? Bishop d8 is intermediate move suggested by any route. Well, bishop d8 seems to be interesting, and well, then queen a3 probably. d6 is a kind of a weak pawn also. No, I think bishop d8 won't work here. What other suggestions do you have, guys? Well, okay. So this illustrates that we are not such strong players as Ding Liren. However, it's actually not so difficult to point out that the king is weak, and something like that with the idea of queen b7 is dangerous, and it definitely compensates a piece loss. For example, g takes f6, queen b7, it's a mate. To stop it, the king has to escape, but then this is a check, king goes there, and after bishop f6, well, we can say black is down a rook. However, for the rook they have 4 pawns as a compensation, but what I think is the most important factor is the king weakness. For example, rook ec1, bishop goes to f3, then after king d3 the position becomes so complicated. Well, e4, gaining the exchange, is one of the options. Maybe just this move to not exchange the rooks and continue with this and that, and then e4 also deserves attention. This is where black has a strong initiative, and with a low time control, more chances to succeed. So another thing is just do this, and after the king goes there, it's, well, if king goes to f1, it could be a draw, which black is fine. But if the king goes there, it's bishop d8, and after queen goes there, check. King goes here, rook c2, and if the king escapes to f1, it's a mate. If they block, then it's bishop a5, and the d2 bishop is lost. Oh, no, it's a blunder. Okay, sorry, it's not bishop a5, it's a5 with the pawn instead, because if this, then rook d2 leads to a checkmate. And a5 also chases the queen away, right? After which we can capture on d2 for free. So you see, well, here, at least black could repeat the position and get a draw or play for a win in case if the king goes to d2, or can capture on f6, and after that the position is quite complicated. That's why actually here g takes f6 wasn't played. Instead, Magnus Carlsen decided to take on a6. Knight to d5. Let's evaluate the position. Well, what do we have? Black is down the exchange. We have a good bishop versus this rook. And we have 2 pawns as a compensation, but 1 pawn is likely to be lost. However, this strong activity with the bishop compensates it. So this move was played. That was a kind of inaccuracy. Instead, Magnus would better exchange the queens to prevent these threats of queen g2 in future. The game could continue like this: queen b8, rook e3, bishop g5, and well, black is definitely not losing this bishop pair. So the rooks are always under attack. The pawn on e3 isn't lost at the moment. Well, it will be lost later, but at least their position is solid. So, for example, this move leads to bishop e7. So Magnus plays bishop a7, queen goes to c7, rook ec1, and because of low on time, black chooses the most solid move, but the move that doesn't win the game. So what do you think was a better option for black to continue and to win the game here? So I'm waiting for your suggestions. Okay, so there was a suggestion of d5. Well, not in this position probably, so I missed it. maybe just take the rook. This is how Ding Liren played, because he wanted to play it as solid as possible. And definitely queen exchange for 2 rooks provides him with enough compensation for the queen. Yeah, there is no mate, of course. However, he created a checkmate later in the game. So, but it's not the best way. The best way is to continue with, let me check once again, what are your suggestions? Queen c1, no. Queen c1, okay, no. Knight c3. What then? So g5 is hanging. We are not threatening with this move at the moment, but, well, if, for example, we play a2, that, well, a2 actually doesn't seem like a good move. Well, what could happen? For example, if they decide to play h4, then it's queen d7 and queen h3. If they play rook a3, it's just bishop g5. And this rook is now vulnerable. So rook c2, for example, and then still queen d7 with the idea of queen h3. So king goes to h2, and in this position bishop f4, pinning that knight. And such move like b4 won't work, just bishop b7, and the knight can always get back in time, while the black's activity is decisive here. Even if black doesn't checkmate, they have several pawns and their bishops are quite powerful. So, but Ding Liren played queen c1. Okay, fine. He wanted to... well, he wanted to don't risk at all. He wanted to not risk. So he played that. And this is where Magnus should play defensively. Rook e1, for example. Otherwise, bishop f4 is coming. So bishop f4 is the biggest issue, after which it's pinned and rook h1 becomes a threat if this bishop is released. So queen d6 was a mistake. Instead, knight e2, rook e1, queen d6 now. These two pieces are hanging. That's why this move. Queen e5, but it's still hanging. Well, it's still under attack. Knight f5, f3, bishop e7 with the idea of bishop d6. And, well, I don't see if there is anything. Maybe just a sacrifice should be applied. So queen d6, knight d6, bishop e1. And in this position, white can draw the game. But if white draws the game, they lose the tie break. Instead, in the game was queen d6. Magnus wanted to play for a win. Bishop f4. And with bishop f4, we create a threat of rook h1. Well, knight e7 and rook h1, and it's hard to stop it. In the game, it was this move played, but after knight e7, it was over. So the knight blocked this check and also let the bishop support the attack. Now there is nothing can be done to stop rook h1. f3 is just a temporary defense. And this is where Magnus resigned. So what we can say by looking at this game, we can definitely say that Ding Liren is a very effective and strong defender. And his statistics only proves it. He can not lose games in a row, I mean 1 or 2 games in a row, but he makes a lot of draws. And this is what his candidate tournament demonstrated. So both rounds of his performance in candidate tournaments only proved that he is a very solid defensive player. However, it also means that at a certain moment of the game he may overtake the initiative if he thinks that he needs to play for a win. So he is a kind of a second number waiting for a mistake of the first number. If the first player makes a mistake, then he looks for a counterplay. And I think this game illustrates this a lot. So you see, he was trying to simplify for the whole game. He wanted a draw. Then he realized he get a chance to play for a win with this attack on g2, And since that moment he was playing for a win, but at the same time he was making moves that do not contain risk. So what's the purpose of pinning himself with this if instead he can just take and get a clear play on the king side with bishop g5 and bishop f4? Well, Jan is a different player. Okay, just one more thing I want to show you before we continue. Just let me share the screen. Okay, now take a look at my screen. So this is the computer analysis of this game. Look at average centipawn loss. So yes, there was a blunder, which is actually not a blunder, but a miswin. It's queen c1 move. But you see, almost all his moves were the strongest moves according to the engine. So he was understanding the position, and he was definitely doing almost the best moves. Well, maybe sometimes he didn't play the best moves, but the move that he chose instead didn't affect the assessment of the position. Well, Magnus Carlsen's statistics is actually not so good. 36. Well, we can explain it because he had to risk. He was playing for a win and he had to risk. That's why he wanted to make the moves that provoked his opponent to make some mistakes. But it didn't work in this game, again, because this grandmaster was super solid. He played super solidly, and he is also a top grandmaster. Okay, now let's continue with the next game that I would like to demonstrate today. And this is also the game of Ding Liren, but this time it was Ian Nepomniatchi playing with Ding with white pieces, and Ian actually won the game. And that was also a game with a short time control. It wasn't a standard game. However, actually, these players don't have a lot of games played with a long time control after the candidate tournament. And almost all games played by Ian Nepomniatchi in the candidate tournament are analyzed already and are published on my YouTube channel. If not all, then a lot of them. I've even created a course which is called Play Chess Like Nepo, which not only illustrates the Nepo's playing style, but from which you can learn some specific ideas and some peculiarities of the Nepo's ability to play, understand the line, and play the position. So this is actually the course that I would recommend, and in my opinion, it's my best course. Play Chess Like Nepo. However, for some reason, this course is not so popular as my other courses. I have no ideas why, because I'm, well, maybe 19% sure that this is the best course, which allows you to improve several aspects of your chess game, of your chess skills. Okay, so this game that I would like to demonstrate, it was, by the first glance, boring Scotch game, but this Scotch game transposed to a very sharp position. Queen e7. All this is theory. c4, bishop a6, and here b3 is the most common. Garry Kasparov is one of the best players here. He knows how to deal it. Well, some people play knight d2 here. g3 is also common. What did Ian Nepomniatchi play? What do you think? So, what would you play if you were Ian Nepomniatchi? Well, he didn't play the novelty, but he played a rare move with a clear idea. One more thing I will tell you before you suggest a move. Well, both players are quite strong with their opening preparation. Well, Magnus Carlsen is a strong player too. I mean, yeah, Magnus is definitely the best chess player, despite that he won't be a world champion anymore after the match between Ding and Nepo finishes. But well, he is still the best. He is much, well, not much, but stronger than both these players. However, so Nepo is from Russia, and Russian grandmasters are known because of their opening preparations. Most of them are extremely good with developing theory, especially in such variations like Sveshnikov variation. Anyway, they are very good with theoretical preparation. And if you remember, another Russian grandmaster, Danya Dubov, was into Magnus Carlsen's team when Magnus 4 years ago or 2 years ago was playing against Ian Nepomniatchi. And because of that, well, actually not only because of that, but because of the Danya Dubov contribution, Magnus was able to play quite promising openings. So, what can I say? The Nepo's opening preparation will be definitely better than Ding Liren's preparation. That's why we may expect some novelties in this match. And I think that Nepo will be better prepared for this uncommon and unfamiliar position. Nowadays, opening theory changes, and it's not enough just to play according to the book that you learned. For example, a book written 10 years ago, you learned everything and you play that moves. It's not enough. Your opponent, if he is also a strong grandmaster, knows how exactly to deal with it. And he definitely analyzed the most promising lines according to the engine. So your task is to identify the lines which are promising as well, but which are hard to parry at the moment over the board, which can be parried with the engine, and for example the position can become equal, but it's hard for a human player to find this exact move to parry this concrete opening. Okay, so, and in this game, he plays h4. What's the point of h4 move? Well, maybe this, maybe something else. But it's obvious that black pieces are developed better. Bishop on e6, the knight on d5, which is potentially hanging, but anyway, the queen is on e7, this queen is on e2. White is not developed, but white is still playing with pawns. And, well, it was the best for black to castle queenside. Well, however, black thinks that why do I need to castle? Why not to open up the position? This will help to simplify. For example, if e takes f6, the game continues with knight f6, then the queens are exchanged, the bishop is developed, and black's position is fine. It has no risk. But after f6, Ian Nepomniatchi plays this move. And after f takes e5, well, yes, f takes e5 should be played, not queen e5. Queen e5, queen takes e5, f takes e5, and the pawn on c4 is no longer pinned and can capture on d5, sorry. So f takes e5 seems to be okay, but now white develops their initiative. And these games illustrates this better opening preparation by Ian Nepomniatchi. Well, where to move? The e5 is vulnerable, so knight f6, rook e3, d6 seems to be a logical move, right? But this time queen f3, white continues development, they move the rook to e3, which is perfect. They are threatening to take on c6, they are pressuring on f6, and well, something like bishop b7 seems to be a mistake. In such a case, the game would continue with this, with the idea of a rook sacrifice and then queen c6. That's why e4, to stop the attack. Queen goes to d1. Well, then Ding Liren plays like a human player. He plays d5 in order to build a pawn chain. For example, if the game continues with this move, it's bishop f1, king takes f1, and he castles with the idea of taking on d5 then. However, even here, I think that he would experience serious problems, because if he takes on d5, then it's knight b5 with a strong pressure on the enemy king. Jan played knight c3, which is not so strong as c takes d5, but is still fine. Bishop b7, c takes d5, c takes d5, and then he continues with bishop f6, with the idea to weaken on d5. Knight d5, this knight is attacking here, there, and the rook is attacking e4. That's why bishop d5 has to be played. Well, queen d5 is probably the most natural option. But instead, Jan brings the other piece into the game. He plays this move. And if c6 is played, it's just queen d5. So bishop c6 was played. How would you continue then in this position? So what do you think? It's an easy move. Okay, so rook takes e4, rook takes e4, queen. Okay, well, rook takes e4 is good. And after bishop e7. And after bishop e7, it's queen d5. To take advantage of the pins. So white is totally pinning the black pieces. And with that, he gains a piece back. So he originally sacrificed a piece on d5, then delivered the check, hoping to take on d5, but then bishop c6, he took there. Well, they have no better move, because moving the king to f7 would be a disaster, right? So, for example, queen b3. Maybe not queen b3, but bishop c4. And after this move, it's rook e6. Or instead, we have queen g4. Well, okay, rook e6 is fine. It's enough. So bishop e7, queen d5, rook d8, and then bishop takes c6. King goes to f8. So the number of pieces is equal. White is a pawn up, but the king is in trouble. The rook is not participating into the game. And we are playing the middle game with the bishops of the opposite color, which means that the dark squared bishop is unable to cover the squares that the light squared bishop can attack. And while white is into the attack, they have more chances to succeed. Well, no, you cannot play this move. No, not that. Then they escape, and then this is hanging, so you're gonna take here, but it's queen c6. No, it's, well, you may lose there, even. So queen c4 was played instead. Queen c4 is another move that contains a threat. Bishop d6, rook d1. So white brings their other rook to the game, and this also contains a threat with rook f4. Well, g6, actually after g6 it doesn't work, because this, rook f4, and in this position rook c6. Rook takes f6, rook takes f6, queen c7, and they somehow manage to escape. So yeah, white is definitely winning here, but that will be a long game then. That's why here he creates another threat, rook f3. King g7, rook f3, queen takes b2. Rook f7, and the king cannot go to g8, it's just a checkmate. Rook e7, and then queen f7 mate. That's why the king escapes to h6, and this is where I want you to suggest the move. Okay, so how would you play? King f1. Okay, king f1 was suggested by Voiko. King f1 makes sense. What else? Not here. No, wait. Queen d5. Anirudh, queen d5. It's too risky. Queen d5, queen c1, and he covers the g5 square already. Also, I'm not sure what queen d5, bishop b4 is also attractive, because then the queen is hanging. So definitely not queen d5. Okay, and the move that should be played, actually the move that was played was g4. And g4 seems to be an absolutely winning move, but here Nepo miscalculated, and it was a chance for black to draw the game. What was that chance? That chance was to play queen e1 move. King goes to e2 and bishop b4. Bishop b4 threatening with the rook entering the enemy camp, something like that. For example, bishop d7, take, queen checks, king goes there, and the other rook joins. So rook f7 has to be played. Queen h1 check, and then after rook f7, queen takes f7, we cannot take on e4, right? Because if we take on e4, it's g5, king h5, queen h7 mate. That's why we have to repeat the position with these checks. Queen h1. So he cannot go there. If only he goes there, then bishop c5 works. And then he may lose everything, because this time the king escapes to g4 after g5. That's why here white would have to repeat the position, and that was Ding Liren's chance. Instead, instead, yes, king f1 is the best move. Why king f1? For example, just this. Queen goes there, but this is already a blunder. Queen c1, queen g5 leads to a mate. If, let's say, bishop f4 to control the g5 square, then g4 should be played. Well, you should be very accurate, because you cannot take there. If you take there, this is a mate. Well, you may say, what if I take with the other rook? Well, if you take with the other rook, it's still a problem. They deliver a check, you do this, and in this position, no, in this position actually, wait, sorry, you are fine. So, okay, queen b1 was played. No, here, let's say bishop f4 is played, and you may take. Yeah, it's possible. But it's stronger to continue with g4, because now the king escapes. Queen c1, you can take on c1, and then successfully play rook c4, threatening with this and this, which is a mate. So they move the bishop, then g5, and they have to sacrifice it, after which the position is completely winning. Instead, Jan played g4, queen b1, king e2, and bishop b4. And now he is completely winning. He played rook d4, rook h e8, but the king escapes. And queen h1, this time, when there is a bishop here, doesn't save his position. So, for example, he continued with this move, but there is no big difference. Then it's fine. Check. Rook f3 or bishop f3 is enough. Bishop f3 is actually a clever move, because if rook d4, it's g5, and the queen has to be sacrificed. So that's why after bishop f3 they resigned. Ding Liren resigned. And what does this game illustrate for us? It illustrates that, opening preparation of Ian Nepomniatchi is better than Ding Liren's, and that both players may make mistakes. However, if white gets some advantage, if Ian Nepomniatchi gets advantage, Ding Liren will be trying to defend his position. He won't try to play for a win. Instead, he would try to draw the game and to find the most solid moves. And this is where, in my opinion, Ian Nepomniatchi may play for a win. So, for example, he can prepare such an opening where his opponent may consider that his position is a little bit worse, and instead of playing the best moves, he will find the most defensive moves, which can be not the best moves. So he just should find such an opening and make sure that his opponent is not familiar with it and would have to come up with the moves over the board. Okay, one more thing I want to show you. Okay, look at my screen. Again, look at the number of average centipawn loss. It's 22, which is extremely low number. Here it's 48, which is average. It's average for a grandmaster to have such a number in a blitz game. And Jan was playing really well. And his blunder in the inaccuracies, well, his blunder was g4, and his inaccuracies are h4, for example, and the second inaccuracy is knight c3, because c takes d5 was much better. Okay, but that's not the end. Let's now talk about their statistics. So, Magnus Carlsen is definitely number one. Ian Nepomniachtchi is the second. However, he is only 13 rating points higher than Ding Liren. Well, but if you look at the progress, looks like these two players didn't play any long games. So, for example, there were a few games that Jan played in March, but before that, it was only October when he played it. He played some rapid games here in January. Well, it's not actually January, it's December. He was playing in Rapid and Blitz World Championship. Now let's take a look at Ding Liren. What about his rating progress? So he did play some games in February, 13. Well, however, I'm not sure about the quality of these games. And according to what I see, his rating didn't change. So he was mainly drawing them. And he also played... No, he didn't. He didn't participate in World Rapid Championship. What means that he is probably not in his best condition, because a player who plays more usually is in a better condition. And if you look, for example, at the list, here Ding Liren, it's a rapid rating. Ding Liren is number 2. His rating here is 28-29, but his rapid rating is so huge because he doesn't play many games. So he kept this rating just. He's holding it. Ian Nepomniachtchi is also among top 7 players. And if you look at the Blitz rating, then even Ian Nepomniachtchi is here. He is number 11 here. And Ding Liren is somewhere in the bottom of this list. Sorry, I can't find him. Okay, let me search. No, he's not here. So, which means that he is not so good in Blitz, and that probably means that Ian Nepomniachtchi would have better chances in case if the match passes into a tiebreak. Okay, now let's continue. And let's look at the game that was played today between them. The first game of the match. The game was drawing. And I'm sure most of you already watched this game, analyzed it. Now let me say a few words what I think about the game, and so what I liked, what I didn't like. And actually, I would love if Ian Nepomniachtchi wins this match. Not because he's Russian, I just like his playing style. He is more aggressive, and his games are more resolutive. He is unlikely to draw the game if he sees a chance to win it. Ding Liren is more about a drawing player, more a defensive player, and this playing style, well, is very common for modern chess, but at the same time is not so attractive. Well, another thing is because I made a course, let me show you. I made a course about Ian Nepomniachtchi, and I was really under impression of the game that he plays. For example, you search Nepo, and then you will find this course, Play Chess Like Nepo. It costs $129, but if you use my coupon code, which is Victor60, you will be able to save 60%. So you click checkout, and here, where is it? Have a coupon, yes. So it's Victor60, and it saves you 60%. You see? So if you want this course, I will send you the link. Well, when I created it, I was so impressed of Ian Nepomniachtchi's the way how he sees the position, how he understands it, and how he finds the decisions. And in these aspects, in my opinion, he is better than Ding Liren, and that's why I believe he should win a match. Well, but this is a match and everything may happen. Okay, let's continue with our analysis. Let's go back. Actually, the link is in the description of this video also, but I will send it to you here if you are interested. Well, it was a good point that actually if Ding wins, it can bring the chess boom to China. Well, probably yes. Well, yes, he may affect the popularity of chess in China, because nowadays China is not considered a chess country. Russia is still considered a chess country. United States is still a chess country. India is a chess country. Ukraine is also a chess country, especially their female team, women team, it's better to say women team, which won chess Olympic Games. Kazakhstan is not a chess country, but the women team of Kazakhstan is actually definitely strong. Well, so, and if Ding Liren wins, then the interest to chess in China will be huge. I remember that something similar happened in Russia when Sergei Karyakin was playing in the match, in the World Championship match against Magnus Carlsen. And if you remember, Sergei Karyakin had a chance to win this match, but lost it on tie break. He was the first player who got the score, so he won the game. After that he loses the game and the score becomes equal, but anyway, the interest to chess in Russia increased a lot, and maybe if Ding wins, then it will be quite favorable for China. Okay, anyway, well, I hope Ian Nepomniatchi wins, because I'm a fan of his playing style, and I actually think that everyone may learn a lot from Ian Nepomniatchi. Now let's talk about the game. So Ruy Lopez, Ian Nepomniatchi is white, bishop e7, and then he takes. So it's not anti-martial. So anti-martial can be this move, but he takes on c6, and that was his preparation. D takes c6. By the way, one more thing. If black wants to draw the game against e4, they have to play e5. But I think that according to what I analyzed of Ian Nepomniatchi's games, he'd better get more chances with such move like c4. This is where he can really trick his opponent. Oh, well, to be honest, I must admit that actually everything may happen. e5, c5, e6, knight f6. So there are a lot of openings that he should prepare against c4. Against e4, the most likely continuation is e5, because e5 is the most drawing opening. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Well, definitely not Italian game, because it has a lot of drawing tendencies. Then he takes. That makes sense. Now the pawn isn't hanging because the one on e4 is hanging, so usually if they take on e5, it's something like knight e4 immediately, or something like queen d4, depends on the concrete example, on the concrete situation when the bishop takes on c6. Right now this move is stronger. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I remember about this move. I definitely analyzed it, but I actually want to say, I want to suggest it as move number 14, not 13. I'll show you why. So rook e1 was played, knight d7, defending the pawn on e5, and d4. Well, looks like black pieces moved from the center, and that's why it's possible to open the center and take with the queen, because something like that, which seems to be attractive, will face with e5. Castle, definitely the strongest move. Bishop f4 is good, and the c7 pawn is potentially vulnerable. Knight c5. Well, if white wants to play for a win, they shouldn't exchange queens. However, if it was Magnus Carlsen playing with white pieces, he could exchange the queens because Magnus can outplay his opponent even in equal position. Maybe actually in a simple and equal position he would have more practical chances to outplay. But if Ian Nepomniatchi plays for a win, he definitely should play something more complicated where his opponent can make a mistake. So bishop g4, knight comes to d4 with the idea of getting to f5 in future. Another move that deserved attention here could be this. And if the bishop goes there, then g4 deserves attention. What could happen then? Well, I don't think that this is a good move. After knight c6, b takes c6 and g takes h6, it seems to me that there is no full compensation for the pawn that black sacrificed. If not this, but maybe f6, then yeah, if not this, but maybe bishop g6, then there is no need to hurry and we can just develop our pieces. This bishop is trapped. However, knight d4 is also a normal move, even more solid. Queen d7 was played. And all grandmasters who were streaming this event analyzed h3 here, which definitely could make sense, with the idea of chasing the bishop away. For example, if the bishop goes there, which is natural, this time g4 offers white with some advantage, right? The bishop is restricted, the rook is going to come there, the queen is in trouble. That's why after h3, the most logical move could be either knight e6 or rook a d8. For example, knight e6, if h takes, they take on d4. It's not favorable for us. They can even take on d4 with the queen, which is definitely not favorable for us. So we have to take, they take with the bishop, and then maybe queen g3, threatening here and there. That could make sense for white. But I think knight c3 is good. And after rook a d8, this time I think that h3 should be played. This is a better version of h3 on move number 13, according to my analysis. Why? Well, first of all, what happens here? Well, so if they take, then it's rook a d1, creating a discovered attack. What now? For example, such move like queen g4 means bishop g3 and this bishop is trapped. Bishop g5 does make no difference. If, for example, this bishop is hanging now and moves somewhere back, then it's f3. The bishop goes to e6, for example, and the knight is trapped. And there is always a risk of any discovered attack like this or that, so it's a completely winning position for white. That's why after h3 they have to play something certain. Something like that is a mistake. After that, knight f5. And this bishop is out of the game. What else? Well, you may say, why not to take on d4? So, well, black has two bishops, why not to let them take one? And exchange the light squared bishop for the knight. For example, yes, if that happens, then black is definitely better. But the idea of h3 move is not to take on g4. What is the idea of the h3 move? What do you think white should do in this position? Who knows? Okay, so Peter, I'm answering your question. When the bishop takes on a3, why not g takes h3? Because the knight on d4 is hanging then. So it will be bishop for a pawn exchange, and then the d4 knight is hanging for free. Okay, so here it seems to me only any route is correct. Yes, Anirudh, thank you. Thank you for suggesting this move. It's knight d5, definitely. What happens then? So queen e3, knight takes e7, king goes to the corner, and after that, two pieces are hanging simultaneously. Okay, what else can be done? Rook takes d5, maybe. Then pawn takes d5, queen, bishop, and other bishop are hanging. So, for example, again, queen e3 and two bishops are hanging. What else? Bishop f6. If so, well, the bishop is protecting the queen, and at the same time it's not hanging. But knight takes f6, and if the queen takes, you can continue with bishop g5 and gain on d8 first, after which, again, two pieces are hanging. For example, queen e5. You can take on d8, it's the simplest option, and you are up the exchange, because if they take, h takes g4, and you are still winning. Okay, what if the pawn takes? If the pawn takes, then it's queen g3, and you gain this bishop with a strong attack. For example, this, take, they take there. You probably play maybe c3 in this position. If they take, you take there, and the knight is trapped. If the queen moves, then maybe queen h4. And the king is vulnerable. So with h3 as the 14th move, Ian Nepomniatchi could play for a win. And actually, the only defense here is rook e8 to protect this bishop. And this time, in case if h takes g4, queen d4 works well, because knight d5 no longer works, because this bishop is already protected with the rook. Well, but after rook f8, it's possible to continue with that, attacking here, here, and here. Queen d4, for example, bishop c7, and then again, white is playing for a win with extra pawn. I think that was a chance for Ian Nepomniatchi to play for a win. Okay, let's go back. He played knight f5, which is not bad. Black didn't take, but they should. So they should take here and then continue with that move, because the bishop is hanging. However, then g4, probably. And the position is somewhat unclear, maybe approximately equal. But they play knight e6, which also makes sense. Knight e6, knight e7, queen takes e7. And, well, this bishop is always attacking c7, and c7 is a permanent weakness. That's why it makes sense to keep the bishop alive. Bishop h5. What can you say about this position? Who is better and why? And what next move would you suggest for white? So white is better due to the kingside majority. I agree with you, and actually there is something I want to say about Ruy Lopez positions when there is a pawn majority on the queen side for black. This pawn majority with double pawns can almost never can be converted into a passed pawn. But this pawn majority can be converted. And that can be the most decisive factor in order to play for a win. However, of course, we are not talking about conversion only. Well, a lot depends on how pieces are located, about their activity, and if creating a passed pawn really works and helps us or not. Okay. So John suggests f4, Anirudh suggests f3, and f3 seems to be stronger because it limits the bishop. f6, trying to activate the bishop. h3, h6, king h2 is a prophylaxis, bishop f7. Rook a d1. So white is definitely better, and mainly it's because this is a weakness, which black has to defend. In order to realize it, to take advantage of this weakness, white tries to exchange pieces. So the rook pair is exchanged, then he plays rook d3. So he wants to exchange the rooks, which happened later. And for example, in this position, it was c6. But it could make sense to continue with rook takes d3, queen d3, and then c6. Sorry, rook d3, queen takes d3, and then c6. But okay, it was c6 first, rook d8, and they have to take with the knight, which in my opinion was a kind of a inaccuracy, because then the knight isn't well placed and the bishop may potentially enter c7, which exactly Ian Nepomniatchi does. He enters the enemy camp with queen f4 and then queen to b8, threatening with bishop to c7. That's why, because this is a pin that black won't be able to unpin, they have to move the king first. Bishop d6, a fork. Queen moves to d7, and this is the critical moment where I'm sure white could have played for a win. What do you think? What is the most logical move? And if you have any ideas why Ian Nepomniatchi didn't play it, maybe you will share it with me, because I didn't listen to the press conference after the match. I only read that Ding Liren said that he was unhappy with his chess. I mean, he wasn't satisfied with how he played, and he thinks he could play better. But I didn't know anything that Ian Nepomniatchi said. So maybe you will tell me. Okay, so while you are trying to answer this question, I will answer Anirudh's question about why queen f4, why not queen d6? Well, Anirudh, what's the point of queen d6? If they take knight e6, then they still cover these squares. Maybe they feel first bring the bishop there, or to c4, knight goes to c3, and then they continue with knight e6, and you don't have much activity with this bishop. Well, you can play this move actually. Okay, so let's go back. Yes, well, bishop c4, no, knight e6 first. With queen f4 it was better, because with queen f4 there was a threat of a pin which forced the king to stay on h7, and then bishop d6. And the best move here after queen d7, I think, was to take on c5, knight e6, and bishop goes back. White is clearly a pawn up and is definitely playing for a win. However, the engine thinks white is only +1. Well, +1, it means extra pawn. This is extra pawn. Of course, some activity should be shown, and well, this is how a chess game should be won actually. You have a extra pawn, you try to convert it. If you cannot, okay, it's a draw. Okay, now I'm answering the question to the Peter's question. So when queen d6 was suggested, here, this, why not to play this? Because after knight c6, two of our pieces are hanging. So that's why we have to play with the knight first. But, well, queen e4 was definitely stronger than queen d6. However, this time, bishop c5 was stronger, and I have no ideas why this move wasn't played. Well, it's not the only move that could allow white to play for a win. Queen c7 is the second option. The queen is hanging, and after the exchange of the queens, losing the pawn on c5 can be decisive. So, for example, queen c7, this is a double attack. The knight goes to b7 only. And what I like about this position is that the knight is absolutely trapped. It has to defend these weaknesses, and it has no moves, which means that now white only is playing for a win and can reinforce his position by bringing the king to the center and improving the knight's position. These pawns cannot be attacked. That's why this is where white is more flexible. That was the second option to play for a win, queen c7. But bishop c5 is the most simple one. Why knight g3 instead? I cannot answer. Sorry. Maybe I'd better listen to the press conference, but no. Well, in this position, a4 could deserve attention because it would provoke either ruining the pawns or the pawns to be located on dark squares. But f4 was played instead. Maybe to chase away with f5, h5, c3 to limit the knight, c4 was played, and well, h4 was played to stop the pawn. Well, maybe this move deserves attention, but then h4. And if this is taken, then this is taken with a check. And it's definitely a draw because of the bishops of the opposite color. So it's better to keep the knights alive. But then this knight goes there and attacks e4. So I don't think white can really win. h4 is good. Queen d8. Now exchanging the queens doesn't make much sense because if this pawn is located on the light square, well, the c6 can be protected with the bishop and white is not playing for a win. Take, maybe bishop c5. That was possible, but again, I don't think it's a good position, and I still believe it is a draw. Queen b7 was played by Ian Nepomniatchi, and this move was a kind of a trick because this doesn't work because of that. And in this position, if queen f4 is played, it's just the knight is hanging here. And if queen h4, it's actually queen h3. So the g3 knight is not lost. And if knight f4 in this position, then what do you think? Then the answer is simple, right? What is the answer? Yes, thank you. It's knight f5. It's knight f5, and this time there is no discovered attack because this knight takes the queen, and you actually have a double threat, and he cannot save it. So knight f5 wins. So that's why queen d6 is not possible, and that was a kind of a trap. But for a top grandmaster, it's easy to calculate this threat. Bishop e8, knight comes to f5, queen d7. Well, and then soon the queens should be exchanged, otherwise it's just a repetition. And after that, it's absolutely drawing game. So e5 with the idea to play for a win, because if he takes, this is a favorable position for white. For example, bishop d7, but then f5, knight e6, knight c5, and d7. Of course, such a strong player like Ding Liren understands it, even a candidate master understands it. So that's why the knight is not exchanged for the bishop. So bishop takes a5, but the pawn on b2 is lost. Every time this move can be played. So finally it was played. Well, b3 this time doesn't seem like a good idea because of c5, of course. That's why here Ian Nepomniatchi plays e6, which simplifies the position. And then he takes on c6 to not let the bishop to be attacked with c5. Bishop d7, knight goes there, knight b2, and then the position becomes absolutely equal. They played a few more moves, and after king e3, they agreed to a draw. So what we may remember from this game? In my opinion, according to what I see, Ian Nepomniatchi is better prepared in the opening stage of the game. He is also a stronger chess player, but sometimes he plays such move that we can hardly explain. For example, let's say, for example, here in the endgame, he was doing really well. His plan was good, but why not to gain the pawn on c5? What did he notice? Maybe there was a counterplay that he was afraid of. Maybe he had problems with visualization here, and maybe thought that something like that is dangerous, which is actually not. I don't know, but these first games illustrate that. Of course, we should see how Ding Liren plays with white pieces. But this game shows us that with white pieces in some games, Ian Nepomniatchi has practical chances to play for a win. And that's why he may score some points with white pieces. Maybe Ding Liren is able to score these points with white pieces as well. But Ian definitely can do this. And maybe if not the second, but the third or the fourth of his game with white pieces can be resultive. I mean, it may lead to his win, or maybe he will get an advantage, make a mistake, and lose the game. But that would be a really interesting game. I don't think that there will be tons of draws, and I don't expect a similar scenario that was in the matches between Magnus Carlsen and Sergei Karyakin, or Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana, where almost all the games were drawing, and the match was decided on tiebreak. So can you imagine? This is a championship match, which assumes that players have to play with a standard time control, but the result is decided with a tiebreak. So it's not logical, but of course we should define who is champion if all the games are drawing. Okay, so what I think that with white pieces, Nepo definitely has better chances. Let's see what what will happen tomorrow, because tomorrow Ding Liren will be playing with white. Okay, so do you have any questions for me? And I actually would like to let you know that next weekend there will be a masterclass conducted by our coach, International Master David Fitzsimons. Let me show you. So next weekend, our coach David Fitzsimons will be conducting an event devoted to, well, this guy, devoted to visualization. And I'm going to attend it myself, so I think it will be quite helpful for me. I'm also working on a course about visualization, and I will call David tomorrow to ask for some of his advice. Maybe he will help you with the exercises, because yeah, I definitely have something in mind, but of course maybe sometimes I'm missing, and that's why I usually ask a few coaches if to make a kind of a review of the course and tell me if maybe something should be added, or maybe something isn't required to be included. So, well, this guy will conduct a masterclass. It's 4-hour session, 2 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. I will email everyone, so you will be able to join if you decide. Okay, and if you want to book a class with this guy, you can actually book a test lesson with David. Well, this is his schedule. It's pretty easy. To schedule the class with him, so choose the time that works for you. So I'm in Almaty. So you choose your time zone which works for you. Okay, probably this. Then you enter your name and click proceed to a payment. The class is free, but we freeze $2 on your bank account and then release this money after 2 days. So this is required to confirm your intention to have a class. But we don't charge you anything. You will get this money back after 2 days, even before the class. It just confirms that you are serious about chess. So if you want a class with this guy, you're welcome. He is actually a good coach. Well, well, to be honest, I'm a good coach too. At least I think so. Okay, well, guys, next time there will be no webinar, but there will be a masterclass by David Fitzsimons. Well, then we have another masterclass by international master Julian Estrada Nieta. And after that, our schedule is not ready. We will probably conduct another event to talk about the match between these two guys, Ding Liren and Nepo. So probably I conduct something. Okay, so if no questions, then let's finish for today. Our team member Mateus will keep you informed about the matches in our chess.com club. So let me show you. If you are not subscribed, then please subscribe to it. So this is my account, for example. You can actually send me a friend request. It now shows I'm streaming it on Twitch, but this is our group at chess.com, which is called Chesslands. And from time to time, actually every day, Mateus publishes some articles that he prepares for you. If you want to learn something, you can definitely click on it and read. Okay, it doesn't show me. Okay, yeah, it's loading. Just wait a sec. Then you can read the full article on our website. We have even a blog here. For example, if you want to learn about common endgames ideas, you can learn it here. Well, there are several topics in our blog, so you will definitely find a lot of helpful stuff at our website, as well as in our chess.com club. So please find it, Chesslands, and join it. Anyway, hope to see you soon. And if everyone wants to come to the match to Astana, please message me, because I will be there and it would be nice to meet you in person. So I will send you my email, tricksofchess, for example, at gmail.com. So message me here. If you have any questions or any suggestions, you are also welcome to write me as well. Okay, and if there are no questions, let's finish for today, and hope to see you soon.